Welcome back everyone. In today's video, we'll continue with the SQL attacks. We'll dive a little deeper when it comes to SQL injections. So let's get started. Examining the database in SQL injection attacks. To exploit an SQL injection vulnerabilities, it is often necessary to find information about the database, and this includes two things: the type of version of the database software and the tables and columns that the database contains. So in previous labs, we were given the table users with the column names, username and password, and we didn't need to dig or search for them. But in this case, we will try to find them on our own. Continue. Querying the database type and version. You can potentially identify both the database type and version by injecting provided specific queries to see if it works. As for the queries, the following are some queries to determine the database version for some popular database types. And here are the queries for Microsoft and MySQL. You have select and then this type of version. For Oracle, you have this one, select star from v $ version. And for PostgreSQL, you have select and then version. So if you forgot how to find these, you can just write SQL cheat sheet and then Portswigger, and this will give you the cheat sheet that Portswigger made for SQL. It's very handy when it comes to SQL injection, and I would recommend you to use it. So here is the cheat sheet. As you can see, you can find the versions right here, and you can find other commands if you would like. So let's go back. Let's continue. For example, you could use a union attack with the following input: union select and then the version, and this will be for Microsoft and MySQL. Note that if you have multiple columns, you would need to add null values depending if it's on the second or the third column, and it depends on the data type of the column itself. This might return the following output. In a case, you can confirm that the database is Microsoft SQL Server and see the version used. Here you can see the output of this command, which is Microsoft SQL Server 2016 SP2 and with the version and some additional information about. So from this command, you can determine the database type, and then you can continue with the specific commands for this database. Now we have our first lab, SQL injection attacks, querying the database type and version on Microsoft and MySQL. This lab contains an SQL injection vulnerability in the product category filter. You can use a union attack as before to retrieve the results from an injected query. To solve the lab, display the database version string. Let's access the lab. I will keep the cheat sheet over here. Make the database retrieve the string, and here I think this is the version. So we can start by clicking on bits. I will just jump into using Suite at this point. So this is the request that goes to bits. I will send it to repeater as before, and I will send the same request just to make sure that it works. Add a single quote, and then I will use union attack, union select, and then null. I just want to know the number of columns, and you can use this way to encode it, to URL encode it, which is Ctrl U, and then if you want to decode it, Ctrl Shift U. So for now we want to encode it. Let's submit. You got an internal server error. It means that the database has multiple columns. The second one, let's add a third null. Let's add a fourth null, and still the database has more. So let's add another one. Still error. Let's add another one, and I think it could be some other issue. So I will try to change my way of testing. I will do order by, and I will do one, and of course I need to URL encode all of this. I still got an internal server error, so it could be another way. So let me add like this. I need to add a plus sign over here. So yeah, that means that this is some other database. So let's go back to the cheat sheet. I can identify which database was it. Let's go back to the cheat sheet and look at the comments. So when it comes to the comments, Oracle uses this as we used before, same as Microsoft. And because this one did not work, especially with the union attack, it means that this database is not Microsoft. So it could be MySQL. Note that in MySQL you have a space after it. So I'll go back to Suite, and I will come back and change it to union attack because I want to test with union. Union select, null, space, or this, and then give additional space. So let me encode all of this. We got 500 error. Let's test with 2 columns, and it worked. See, before when we didn't add that space, it didn't work, and we had to reach what about like 5 columns and still it didn't work. So when it comes to buzzing or testing for the SQL injection or any other type of injection, just be patient with it. Test for every case and you will find it. Now that we have 2 columns, let me test for the first one if it's a string or can hold string data. So I'll just give it an A, and it can hold a string data. I don't care about the second one because I only want to retrieve the version. As for now, let me see, this was MySQL, and in MySQL you do this, I believe. If it's not, then I will change it. And that's it, it worked. So now let's go down and see the version. Let me go down and see where it is. And there we go. We successfully retrieved the version, and when you want to go to the lab, you'll see that it's solved. We'll go back to the lab, and as you can see, we solved the lab successfully. So this is how you can retrieve the version, and we can just do it here to showcase it again. We did a union select, and then we gave the version, and the second one was a null, and I gave a space at the end. And oh yeah, because I need to add the space at the end. As you can see, we retrieved the version right here. And that's it for this lab, and let's move on to the next one. Let's take the contents of the database. So most database types except Oracle have a set of views called the information schema. This provides information about the database. For example, you can query the information underscore schema.tables, and it will list you the tables within the database that the application has. So the format is select star from information underscore schema.tables. This returns the output. It depends what tables you have. So it will return the table names that you have. It could be 3, it could be 10, up to the application, and the schema of the table, and then the type of the table. So let's continue. This output indicates that there are 3 tables: product, users, and feedback. Then you can query the information schema.columns, which will return a column of a specific table. At first we got the table names, and then let's say we are interested in the users table because it might have some information about the users. So you can query the information schema.column to list the columns of the users table by select star from information schema.column this time, where the table name, and this is another SQL command we didn't take before, table name equal to users, and this will return the following, which is the information about the users within that table. So now you have the column names, which is user ID, username, password, and then the data type of it. So you don't need to query the data type, you already know it, and based on that you can start to enumerate more and get the information from these columns one by one. So let's hit continue. SQL injection attacks listing the database content on non-Oracle databases. This lab contains an SQL injection vulnerability in the product category filter. The results from the query are returned in the application's response. So you can use a union attack to retrieve data from other tables. The application has a logic function, and the database contains a table that holds usernames and passwords. You need to determine the name of this table and its columns, or the content of its columns, then retrieve the contents of the table to obtain username and password. Once you do that, then you can log in as the administrator user. So let's access the lab. Alright, and now the lab rendered. Let's click on bits, and let's go to Web Suite. So once I went to Web Suite, my mouse just lagged. So let me see, it was this one, and let's send it to repeater just to make sure it's not as the previous one. Look at the domain or the host name, it's a different host, meaning that this is the new lab. So let's continue, starting with the normal union select, and then null, a comment, and then you just need to URL encode everything. I got internal server error, it means that it has multiple columns. Let's try with 2, and we got okay. And notice that we didn't needed to add a space in this one. It means that this is Microsoft's database. So by default I will start to inject Microsoft commands, starting with this. I know the first one is can hold strings, so let's try with the second one if it can hold strings as well. The second one can also hold strings, which is good. And now we just need to know the database version. So let me go back to the cheat sheet, and when it came to the version in Microsoft, it was this one. It's same as MySQL. So for now, let me select the version to know the version, and I got internal server error. Interesting. Let me try the version in this one and see, and I still got an internal server error, even though before it worked when it came to. So let me try the other way of writing a version like this, and it works. So it's not Microsoft, it's MySQL. And let me scroll down to see the version. So this is the version. Oh, it's Postgre, not even MySQL. So it's a Postgre database, and this is the additional information. It's under Ubuntu, blah blah blah, the version number. So now we can continue. We need to get the information about that database. So let's put it back as null. Let me go over here. Let me see Postgre, the database content. At first we need to use this one to get the information schema. So I will select from here. That's all I need. We go back to Web Suite. So I will add this one, and I need to put the space over here. URL encode everything. It's encoded, and now instead of a null I want to retrieve the table name or table names. Let me see if it's correct. So it could be a table name, yeah, and the command is table name. So let me go down. I have all of these tables, so I will look at something with the users because I'm not interested in every table, and we have only one table, which we were lucky. We might have like multiple tables regarding users. So I'll copy this one and I'll put it in a notepad. So this is the table name, and now I need to know the columns within this table. So all I need to do is to change the schema of tables to columns, and instead of the table name I need the table column from the table columns, and then we need to add the where clause, where table underscore name equal single quotes, and then put the table name, and don't forget to URL encode everything in here. URL encoded, submit. You got an internal server error. It could be schema.column. No, it could be this one with columns, or I should just go and check the specific format from schema.columns. This is correct, which I guess it's with the other one, column names, column name, and then from schema.columns, and we got 200. Okay, this was just syntax from my side. And now let's scroll to users. I don't want the users, actually I want the username, and here we go. We have one username table which we retrieved, name table, and then for the passwords table it's this one. So now once we got all of the information that we need, all what we need to do is to feed it into the database. And one last command that we need, delete all of this. Let me write the command, union select. I need to select the username underscore yx, okay, comma, and then for the password from, and now the table name, which is this one. And now we just need to URL encode everything again. Send. Get it to 500. Select the username, this one correct. So let me just check for the format and I will get back. Alright, I had some few mistakes right here, which I changed the column name of the users with the table name, which is users, and I forgot to add the comments. It just took me like a minute to fix all of this. And now once we write the correct format, which is union select the table name, which is the users table, the passwords table, and then from, which is the table name. Once we said that, we get to 200. Okay, and now we can check the administrator account. Let's write admin, and here we have the administrator with his password. I can just go to the application. There's the lab over here. Let me just go to my account, the password, and the account is administrator. And once you click that, you have successfully solved the lab, and this time we retrieved all the information bit by bit, starting from the database version. Thank you again for watching, and practice for the next ones because we have some additional attacks that will be much harder. Thank you.